Jill, it's so great to have you on the show. Before we jump into our first question, I'd love to have our audience know a little bit about you. So I'm going to give your bio first, and then I'd love for you to chime in with some additional background. So Jill is passionate about building a one-of-a-kind company. And as CEO, Jill has founded Ruby in 2003, seeing double-digit growth every year since its inception. Ruby Receptionist delivers personalized live receptionist and chat services to thousands of businesses across North America. Jill was an Ernst & Young PNW Entrepreneur of the Year and Oregon's 2017 Technology Executive of the Year. Wow, that sounds really impressive. Jill, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, Stephen, thank you so much. I'm a huge fan. And as you know, you're part of that double-digit growth story. So it's great to be on your show and to chat with you this next hour.
Yeah, so let's fill in some of the blanks here in terms of your background, because you built a really big, successful business. And I believe that you kind of started essentially at your kitchen table, right?
Somewhat. I had to go all in because we are a live receptionist service. I actually had to buy a fancy phone system and sign my life away for a phone contract. So the day we launched our service, we were in a little tiny sculptor's studio, but that's what we did in order to have commercial service. But yeah, almost the kitchen table.
Right. So you bootstrapped from the beginning and you built up the company do you want to share any kind of numbers that will help people understand the scope of your business now?
Sure. Well, today we serve just right at 10,000 small businesses, and we have over 600 full-time employees that deliver that service. So from nothing to over 600, it's been sort of a crazy hockey stick year after year experience.
Awesome. And you're still privately held?
That's right. Yes.
And do you have big investors, like VC investors or anything?
In 2014, we did what we call a recapitalization. And so now we are private equity backed. They put a little infusion into the business, but what they really did was help us figure out how to take what we had was special and really take it to the next level with the technology empowered part of the service.
Right. And so it's technology powered, but it's all about personal connection.
That's right.
Having that first impression be out of this world. So let's talk about that. What's so important about the first impression when somebody picks up the phone, they call your business, and they get a voicemail maze, or they get kind of the runaround, or they don't get stellar customer service? Like, what's that costing a business that's investing in all this marketing and advertising and then blowing it at the last minute?
When customers are getting voicemail and they're not getting a human, guess what? All those marketing dollars are just going right out the door. Studies show over 65% of people that get voicemail don't leave a message and they just move on. So as much as we live in the era of the internet and the computer, phone calls still win business. And actually, when we answer the phone and when we provide a great experience, something like 29% of all sales opportunities actually result in a sale when it's over the phone. So it's a really powerful sales enablement tools. We help all of our marketing customers make their services better when they have their clients use us as well. And we also help the small business owners, have peace of mind that they can focus on their business and help make a great first impression. And so you mentioned, yes, it is a completely human service, but it is our proprietary technology that our receptionists use that's actually connected to our customer mobile app so that we sound just like we're in our customer's office. And so we can actually be helpful and useful and do exactly what our customers would like, with the phone call as we're providing that friendly service.
So it's essentially like your team is embedded in your client's business.
That's right. And by doing that and using the technology, it enables our 400 receptionists to essentially sound like we're in the office, but it enables small business owners who would not be able to justify the cost of a full-time receptionist not only get that daytime coverage, they actually get 100% coverage from the early mornings well into the evenings and weekends. They know that their receptionist is never taking a break, going to lunch, or even taking a sick day. We're there right there for our customers at, merely a fraction of the price of a full-time receptionist.
That's very cool. And you eat your own dog food, so to speak,
That's
in terms
right.
of providing a stellar first impression for
Right.
people who call your number.
That's right.
And in fact, you drive a lot of the traffic coming into your website to the phone because it's such a great experience. You get the highest conversion rates and you get the outcome that you're after, the long-term clients with a high LTV.
That's right. Since day one, we have used our own service and we have grown most predominantly through word of mouth referrals. So yes, if we can get those customers to pick up their phone and give us a call. And now I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about our new venture into providing that same personal connection, but on chat. If we can get those potential customers to just engage with us, we win them over and they get to experience it for themselves.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about how this first impression can be cost justified and monetized, because it is such an incredible opportunity that I think many businesses miss. They're not thinking in terms of, well, if I put $1 in, I get $5 out, like they do when investing in Facebook ads or in Google ads or even in SEO.
Yes.
So how do you quantify the ROI of virtual receptionist or even just a receptionist in general?
Exactly. And I mean, above all else, whether I convince your listeners to use Ruby or just answer their phone and be nice, then I've done my job. But even if you are answering 80% of your phone calls, you could be leaving enough revenue off the table or on the table that it's the difference between success and failure for your typical small business. So hear me out. So think about what a typical business, let's say a roofer, a typical roofing job is $7,000. And let's say they have a 30% chance of winning the sale if somebody gives them a call and a 0% chance of winning the business if they don't answer the call. They go right on to their competitors. So if you're answering 70% of your phone calls, you're missing, 30% of your revenue opportunity, but actually 10% in sales. And if you can imagine, if you had one additional job per week or perhaps even per day, depending on the nature of your service and how many phone calls, it literally can add up from somewhere between $250,000 to $1 million of additional revenue. And for small businesses that are typically right in that range, that is that's a material difference that can determine success or failure.
Yeah. And so if somebody calls to inquire about your services or products and they don't get through, they get your voicemail, they get maybe not even the most stellar customer service because you're using some sort of answering service that doesn't understand your business at all, then they're not likely to stay or to try you out and see that this is actually a good investment. So do you have any kind of methodology for calculating the ROI and the opportunity cost of not handling this?
We do. We actually have a calculator that you can put to your own business, and you can plug in the number of phone calls that you receive on a given day and think about the lifetime value of a particular customer and what you pay to get that customer and what the difference between getting all of the missed opportunities and not getting all of the missed opportunities, what that can do to impact your business. And that's a special calculator that we've actually edited and packaged just for your listeners, Stefan, and we're excited to give it to your listeners.
Thank you so much. Yes, we talked about this before the recording, that this is something that you guys are going to create special for our listeners here. And thank you so much for that. And there's a webinar that is on this topic that you guys offered called the ROI of Personal Connections. And would you be able to offer my listeners like a replay of that webinar as well?
That's right. And we have a landing page specifically for your listeners. It's called ruby.com/smart marketing.
Marketing speak.
Marketing speak. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Marketing speak and all of the things that we're talking about today, including a special code for ability to sign up for Ruby with a incentive, will all be on that landing page.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that's callruby.com/marketing speak for the free gifts, the ROI calculator, and the webinar replay. And then the special offer code will be available there too if you end up signing up. So how have you applied the power of the first impression in your business in ways that are innovative? I know you alluded to the fact you have some technology that helps you to be more effective, but I would love to get some, I don't know if I want to call it secret sauce. I don't want to,
Okay. Well,
I don't want to pressure you here, but if you could share some tips that are kind of out of the ordinary for our listener in terms of really making a powerful impact in that first call.
Well, our secrets are really no secret. It's just a commitment to execution, I think, that delivers. And it really starts with the people. And we understand that in order for our employees to deliver what it is that we are selling, they absolutely have to feel committed and empowered to help our small business customers grow. So first and foremost, it's about aligning our employees to our mission, which is that we are about keeping alive that personal connection that's increasingly lost. So it starts with the people, and then it's really about treating them well, reinforcing them, and rewarding those things. Then we have the technology. So our technology and the way that we design our workforce gets us perfectly balanced so that every single solitary phone call is answered live. I mean, that's part of the equation, is actually answering the phone call and not placing the callers, not being greeted by a hold message. And so over 98% of all of our phone calls are answered within 4 rings, and they're always greeted by a friendly receptionist. And then some of our cool technology features, depending on the time zone of our customers, it'll automatically, the greeting will read good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, to ensure that we're always pronouncing our customers' company names correctly. A little audio whisper in the receptionist's ear ensures that we know exactly how to pronounce the name. And then we have all kinds of information at the receptionist's fingertips. So the next thing out of the caller's mouth, we're not responding with a script. We're listening, and we have the tools to know exactly how to engage. And that includes even one of many callers' favorite subject, which is talking about the weather. So another sort of secret sauce is the weather of yesterday's weather, today's weather, and tomorrow's weather shows up in the reception screen for the customer that we're working with. It's just one of those things that we learned through taking over 50 million phone calls, that people like talking about the weather.
50 million phone calls. Oh my gosh.
Over
Wow. So answering within 4 rings, that's important, because if it ring, that's not a good look. I also hate it when I get an immediate pickup on the other line and then they ask, can I hold, please? I hate that. Do you guys have to do that sometimes?
We avoid it as much as we possibly can. A very tiny fraction, something like 2% of calls do get asked to be placed on a brief hold. And if the caller says no, then we actually honor that. And then on average, they are on hold for less than 8 seconds. So that's our stopgap, because we literally have no voicemail, no automated hold. So for those rare instances where there's an unusual spike, that does happen. But I hate it too, and we work very diligently to minimize
2%
that.
is pretty, that's impressive. 98% you don't ask them to go on hold. That's great. And then you said not having a script. So what does that mean? Like, if somebody has a script, then they sound kind of stilted or fake when they're talking to you? Is that essentially what it's about?
That's right. I mean, again, we are about the personal connection. We help our small businesses win business by making their callers feel heard, making them feel trusted, making them feel like we really want their business. And if we limit our employees to following a script, that's no better than a computer. In fact, many would argue it's worse than a computer, because they're not using the human part of them. And actually, frankly, computers are less expensive and more accurate than humans. So we follow decision trees, and we have information, and we know the most important call is a potential new client or a current client of our customers. And when that happens, we know right where to look to know exactly what our customers want us to do to win that business. And then we act from there.
That's awesome. Let's change topics for a little bit. We'll come back to the first impression and phone in a little bit, but I want to talk more about your guys' marketing because you're doing some innovative things. You're doing some things that allow you to grow, scale quite significantly. I love the company culture you've created. It's just a feel-good sort of company. I'm really impressed by you guys and really enjoyed working with you. So let's talk about marketing. One thing I noticed that was really cool is your radio ads.
Oh, yes.
So you're advertising on Sirius XM, and how are you differentiating from all the other radio ads out there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's that emotion where really, who hasn't been there where they get a, voicemail greeting and saying your call is very important to us. And you're just going, no, it's not. If I was important to you, you'd be talking to me. And so we really capture that sort of notion that, yeah, that phone call is important. So with Ruby, a lot of what we're having to do is educate. People have forgotten how important the human piece is. And when we're reminded of that, and when especially small business owners go, oh, there's a company that really does get it. They're out there. I mean, our virtual receptionist isn't the most common thing, and people don't quite know what it is. We have a lot to accomplish with our marketing. So just capturing the attention with something that's fun and engaging and really speaks to the listener is part of that radio strategy.
Yeah, and you drive people to call you.
We do. We do.
And do you have a special way to track that the leads are coming from the radio ads?
We try pretty hard. We have unique phone numbers, but at the end of the day, people will hear our ad on the radio and they'll remember the name. And then, 6 months later, that whole attribution challenge. And in fact, one of the lessons we've learned is when we realized that we weren't really investing in our brand placement online, we were actually losing some of that radio opportunity because people were searching for us because of the radio ad. So we do our very best to track. And at the end of the day, we really do want people to call us because when they call us, they get to experience the service. And that creates its own attribution challenges. But we'd rather have that opportunity and figure out the attribution by just simply asking people on the phone.
Right. So they get to kind of try before they buy. They get to taste test what it's like to work with your company because they're on the receiving end as the prospect. And then you lose some of that attribution capability because they're not necessarily ready to call the number that you specify in the radio ad right then and there. And you also can get multiple touch points where they find you from a Google search, either through SEO or through an organic listing or through a paid listing, through Google ads. And then presumably you have tracking with the Google ads as well. So you have the call tracking there. Is that set up?
We do. Yes, we do. And again, it is still limited in its capabilities because again, once they just Google Ruby, then it's our regular number. So we try. We're always looking to be better and know exactly where all of our leads and interests are coming from.
Yeah. So if somebody hears you on the radio ad, and then let's say 2 weeks later they Google you, and then they click on, let's say, the ad in the Google results. They'll get a call tracking number that's unique that will attribute that lead to the Google ad campaign, even though that wasn't the first touch point. It was actually the radio ad.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
common problem.
Exactly.
Common problem. Yes. And one that you don't want to solve by driving everybody to the online experience. You want them to pick up the phone. Yeah. Makes sense. So what sort of marketing channels are you guys utilizing and to what degree? And I know SEO is part of it. We can talk about that, but
you really helped us make the bridge to engaging and building audience. 3 years ago, every dollar we spent on marketing was for direct, customer sign up, direct demand. That got us pretty far. Our word of marketing is still, the number one performer, and actually pay-per-click. That's the only method of advertising I used back in 2003 when I stumbled on it, one of those late night hours starting the business and going, what's this? And I could pay 10 cents for a click and get people to call us.
Oh, those are the good old days.
So, really we've shifted our strategy. It's about, hey, if you have an immediate need, great, let's ensure that we're there to dazzle you and get you signed up instantly using our service, we launched an Experience Ruby page where you can literally put in your information and you can have an account that works for 4 hours just so you can actually use it and see what it's like when we're answering for your company without any sort of obligation. But then we're also really we're pretty passionate about the value of a phone call and helping our small businesses grow. And we recently did a customer survey, and the majority of our customers have seen over a 20% lift in their revenue since signing up with Ruby. And the majority claimed an over 20% improvement in customer satisfaction or customer happiness. And it's real ROI. And they also claim a 2 to 3x ROI on their dollars spent with Ruby. So this is the era of the internet. And, sometimes people just don't understand how important the personal connection is in winning business. And so we're sort of on this education, almost evangelical about, the value of the personal connection, getting audiences to listen. And so we've really shifted to a strategy where we're trying to provide really helpful information to our small businesses and potential customers about how they can grow their business through providing an exceptional customer experience. And that's going to shift.
Yeah. So it's
That's right.
educational
That's right.
marketing.
We're doing both right now, but over time, I think, the longer play is to really build the audience, and we've got all kinds of awesome stuff to talk to them about and share with them. So
Right. So content marketing is about adding value to the prospect, whether or not they become
that's right.
a customer, because they could be a referral source. They could be an advocate without being a paying client.
Yes,
And so
absolutely.
you can also go earlier on in the buy cycles, in the buyer's journey, to where they haven't even decided the buying criteria. They haven't even decided that they want a receptionist, or that they need an extra staff person, or that this is an area of the business that needs to be focused on. So a great analogy to this, I think I've shared this with you on one of our past calls, is that if you think about selling baby
Yes.
furniture online, for example, like bassinets and cribs and so forth, the obvious keywords to target would be bassinet, baby cribs, etc. But then earlier on in the buy cycle, the expectant parent is searching for other things before they think about the furniture. Let's say that right after the ultrasound, where they find out the baby's sex, they're like, oh boy, I'm going to go onto Google and search for, what do you think the keyword is that they search for?
Baby names.
Not furniture. They're searching exactly baby names. And that's like orders of magnitude more popular than baby furniture related keywords. Somebody who's not really familiar with this concept, well, that's silly. I can't monetize baby names. I don't sell baby names. I sell furniture. But then if you bring them in, it's exactly your target audience. They're expectant parents for the most part. And then you can soft sell them on something that is going to help influence their buying criteria, such as an essential nesting checklist. And free download, they give their email address, and in exchange, you give them this valuable document that helps them make better buying choices later on when they're ready to outfit their baby's new room. So you could do the same sort of thing with your content marketing. There's so many areas in relation to the customer experience that they could shore up and address, and they're not even aware. They don't know what they don't know.
That's right. I mean, we are passionate about that exceptional customer experience to win business, and small businesses, that's almost always in any business survey, it's always top of mind. Is how do I grow my business? How do I get more customers? And sometimes it's just that simple, and we have that information to share, and we are passionate about that, whether or not someone's doing it themselves or engaging Ruby.
And with the 50 million phone calls that you have, that's a lot of data. I could imagine that you could mine that data for really interesting trends and insights into what works and what doesn't.
Yes. Well, I know, for example, Americans actually make 20% more phone calls on Mondays than they do on Fridays. And it's funny, sometimes, workforces like to come to work on, Tuesdays and Wednesdays and not so much Mondays. So if that's your workforce and people come to work on Monday ready to do business, you want to make sure that you are properly staffed to handle that. That's one of the things that we've seen. Phone calls are very, very, very predictable, and weather impacts things a lot. And there's a little bit of seasonality during the summer. People actually make phone calls a little bit later in the day. They kind of follow the sun. It's very slight, but yes, with 50 million phone calls, you see the trends.
And the way that AI works best is if you feed it a large data set, then it provides a lot of fodder for that AI to figure out things. So I could imagine there's a ripe opportunity for you to implement some AI, take all that data that you've been collecting over the years, and have some really interesting things come out of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's, trends around, the robocalls, solicitors, are they growing or are they shrinking, based on the trends and the laws? And then what percentage of callers are potential customers for our customers? Yes, we can do it in the aggregate, but we're starting to tag in a way and display and graph in a way that our own customers can know what kind of calls they're receiving.
Oh, that's cool. So there's like a dashboard where they can see how many calls they've gotten and what type of call it was and all that?
That's right. That's right. So in our online, we have our customer mobile app that has information. Then we also have the same information displayed in even more rich ways on our customer website.
In the portal for the customers.
Yes,
Got it.
that's right.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's some really cool things that we're doing there.
So back to the Google Ads thing, that was a secret weapon for you at the beginning, and it's still a key part of your marketing strategy. And at the very beginning, you were doing your own Google AdWords, right?
That's right. In fact, it's probably the reason that we started out as a national service because, I'm in Portland, Oregon, and the business was going to be a local business because that's just kind of how I thought about it, but got these Google ads up online before we even launched and started getting phone calls from the East Coast. And our first employee loved getting up in the early morning hours. She had kids that were school age, and she was like, gosh, if I worked from 5 a.m. to 1:30, I could be home for my kids. And so this was, again, before we launched on day one, we switched up, and that's all because of pay-per-click that we're a national company.
That's really cool. And how long did you manage the Google AdWords campaigns yourself?
A really long time, probably maybe 7 or 8 years. It wasn't even until probably 2011 that we had a marketing director. For the first 8 years of our business, we grew so fast, but our technology was not yet developed that our bottleneck was not new customers. Our bottlenecks was figuring out how to onboard customers quickly, how to hire and train and get the technology to be stable and work for us. So we actually didn't have a marketing department at all until just a few years ago.
That's funny. So your limiter was not new customers,
No.
It was infrastructure.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
So how do you scale team members? I can relate because I had, prior to my current company, an agency that had at our peak 65 staff across 3 different countries, including China, in fact. It was hard to scale that business, but the secret that got us to scale wasn't hiring or onboarding or anything. It was a technology platform that I had invented.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a cost per click based, so pay for performance based SEO technology. We were charging 15 cents a click to companies like Zappos and Nordstrom and making millions and millions of dollars off of that technology platform. We still were a consulting company or agency as far as people saw us from the outside, but we were a software as a service company for the most part on the inside, or more than the majority of our revenue came from that. So that was significant innovation that I came up with in 2003, right when you were starting your business.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was the reason why our previous company got acquired. But hiring really good people was a limiter in that previous business. It is now. I mean, I've got a small team currently, like fewer than 10 people, but finding really good people, especially in a technical area such as SEO, is very, very hard.
Oh, I'm sure.
So what sort of learnings have you gotten from this, this struggle?
Yes. Well, now I have to say I'm going to share our service pyramid with you as well, too, because the lessons are, in order to scale, technology is a huge piece of it, because our technology allows us to be efficient and accurate and reliable and consistent. So that is the technology platform that we can now instantly onboard a customer in just minutes. It used to actually take days and technical expertise that involved, logging into a traditional PBX, and our receptionist, whether it's the first phone call or the thousandth phone call they've taken for a particular customer, they will be able to deliver that same level of Ruby service. So the technology is super key in us being able to scale. But then the people part of it, you mentioned that is also really, really, really key. And in fact, one of the times we had to turn off our marketing, we realized that 40% of our receptionists were in their first 90 days and everything started breaking. Our service levels dropped. We just were not able to do things, according to our standards. And so that is one of the KPIs that we measure, that we cannot be above a certain percentage of our receptionists in their first 90 days. So today, our centers are led. We really have what we call a people-powered culture. All of our receptionist site directors and what we call cultivators, those are our frontline supervisors, they are all former receptionists. And so because receptionists are infused in every aspect of the company, including we have coders who are former receptionists, QA, people in IT, L&D, our customer happiness and sales, all of those departments, marketing, have former Ruby receptionists. And I think that allows us to scale with the culture and service intact.
So this service pyramid, is that like some sort of framework or?
It is. It is. It's similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs in that it's a pyramid. And at the base of the pyramid is be prepared with the right infrastructure. So if our phone system isn't answering phone calls, we're out of business, day one. We're not able to deliver at the highest level of the service pyramid. And at the top of the service pyramid is delivering that personal connection. So it's Maslow's hierarchy in practice because the foundation is essential. You can't just go right up, to the top. And it's a balance. It looks like a traditional phone. So at the top of the pyramid is a handset. And think of it as scales that balance technology and process with the people, because the technology and process allows the scalability and consistency that allow us to do what we say we're going to do. But the people, without the scripts that we hire that are truly empowered to make a difference in someone's day and really listen and make that connection and win that business, relies on the creativity and wonderful people that we employ and empower. So it's a delicate balancing act, but it all works together, and it's really served as well as a framework to scale year after year.
That's cool. And is that something like a free download?
That's right. We'll get that on the page too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And can you share a bit about your screening and hiring process? Like, do you get people to take any online assessments, anything like DISC or predictive index or StrengthsFinder or anything like that as part of the process?
We don't. We have a basic screening in terms of some skills that are a requirement to be able to do the job. And if you are not quite at that level, we have free resources. So people that would like to be a Ruby receptionist but don't quite have the computer skills yet, we go get ready and then we'll be happy to engage with you. I don't think hiring is the secret. In fact, 67% of our new receptionists come from employee referral. And so our screening process really is we have like 13 applicants for every receptionist opening, even in today's really tight job market. I think we do 8 phone screens and 3 live interviews. But the live interviews, we do a sit with. And so receptionists and potential receptionists sit together, and that potential receptionist gets to see what it's really like and make sure it's a fit for them. And the receptionist that's hosting them is hosting them, but they're also, there's a lot of pride and protection around our culture and our service levels. And so those receptionists are part of the decision process as well. But I would contend that it's really easy to hire people who love making a difference, who are generally really nice people. What's challenging is to ensure that your policies and how you incent and what you reinforces those things and not other things. And we've made that mistake in the past too and learned from it.
So could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, for example, we say that really we're about this personal connection. But there was a time when people that got the biggest raises were the ones that answered the most phone calls. And we actually had no ability, we had no recognition or any sort of system that said, no, that's not the most important thing is our values and delivering that mission. Then we should probably incent on that. We've had periods where it seemed like because, that commitment to answer all phone calls live, it it seemed like all we ever talked about was attendance. And then when we create policies that limit the trust and empowerment of the receptionist, that makes them feel not valued. They start to lose interest in making a difference for the company. And then on the flip side, every single employee is empowered to do anything that they can think of for our customers. We have a prepaid Amazon account that's part of a Wow Station that any employee can buy anything for any customer. No questions asked. They just have to share the story. Our entire customer happiness department, from their first day to the most senior person there, is empowered to do whatever it takes to do right by the customer. And that makes our employees feel good. And they know that we have their back, that they can not be worried that they're going to do the wrong thing. It's a culture that reinforces the friendly and the caring and the personal connection. And I would contend that most people, when they're hired, start out that way, and it's just in the interest of being safe and protecting, we kind of limit employees' ability to deliver that. I think that's a really important thing to do, is hire great employees. When they prove to not be able to be trustworthy, don't not trust everybody else, just that they're not a good fit for the organization.
Right.
But don't ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah, so go into it trusting that they're going to do a great job and that they care, and then they'll rise to the occasion, most likely.
That's right.
What you described sounds very similar, really, to Zappos and the culture they've created and the focus on the customer. Reminds me specifically of a story that I heard of. Now, Zappos, I got to work with them firsthand in multiple occasions with my current company. They were a client for a while, and then they were also a client of my previous agency. And I don't know if most people know this or not, but if you're in Vegas, you can get a tour of their offices. You just have to make an advance appointment for it, but anybody can come in and get a guided tour, which is really, really cool. The personality just oozes out of the company. I remember getting a tour. I've had multiple tours, but the one that really made an impact for me was the first time, and they showed us around, and there's many conference rooms, and they were themed, and there was one that was really funny. It was like a backwoods sort of conference room theme. They had the hind end of a raccoon mounted on the wall. I hope it was not real. I'm vegetarian, but it was a really funny room. And then I remember going into one area that was a bunch of cubicles, but there were themes to each area. And this theme was, I think, Mexico. And they had what are those shakers that they're like a musical instrument?
Maracas.
Maracas. I think they're maracas.
Is that right?
I think so.
Okay.
If not, we can edit it and post.
Right.
So they're shaking these things to greet us, and they had these big sombrero hats that they put on, and they were saying hola to us. It was really cute. And then there were different themes in different other areas. Like there was an area that they were really into Star Trek and sci-fi, and they had a life-size cutout of, I think it was Dr. Spock or something. I forget the details of that now, but it was really, really fun. You could tell that people enjoyed the culture, and it wasn't just lip service. It was the real deal.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I've not been there, but I have been told that we have a lot of similarities.
Yes. And one story that was really impactful for me that I heard years and years ago about Zappos is one of the customer service agents had taken a call from a customer who she bought shoes for her mom, and her mom had some terminal illness. Her feet were swelling, and by the time she tried on the shoes, she didn't try them on or wear them right away, but her feet were swollen and they wouldn't fit anymore, the shoes. And then her mom finally passed away. She didn't return the shoes right away, so she called months later, and I understand that well past the return date, but can you make an exception? Not only did the customer service rep make an exception, but she followed up with a bouquet of flowers and a handwritten card that was not just signed by her, but a bunch of other team members. And that woman that was the customer was so touched by that. She just so happened to be a blogger. who
Uh-huh.
wrote about it, and then that blog post
Yeah.
went viral, and the
Yeah.
customer service rep was just doing her job to
Just
the
doing.
point where
Yeah.
she knew that this was the right thing, and not to like, oh, I hope we get some press or something
Yeah.
out of it. It was
Yeah.
just being a
No.
really good human. That story reminded me of what you were describing.
Oh, yeah. And she was just being herself. She knew that she was empowered to be herself.
Yeah.
And she knew that the company was aligned in that. And that's a beautiful story. And also, we're the note card. I mean, sometimes we're doing these big wow things, but just acknowledging a personal interaction with a note card, that's a lost art and something that we're also really big fans of as well.
Yeah. In fact, I was just at Traffic and Conversion Summit, and I heard of a tool that I'll dig it up. I'll include it in the show notes for this episode. But it's a tool where you can mass produce handwritten notes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if you have 50,000 customers that you want to send a handwritten note to, they can do that. It's crazy, right?
Wow.
The stuff that's out there is just
Yeah.
mind blowing. Like there's ringless voicemail. Are you
Yes.
familiar with ringless
Yeah, I've heard
voicemail?
that. Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
I
Yes.
hadn't heard of that until a previous Traffic and Conversion Summit. I was always wondering, why did the phone not ring? It went straight to
Yeah.
voicemail. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And it was blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. It was certainly a pre-recorded message because
Yes.
they're not that elegant, most of these
Yes.
ringless
Right.
voicemail people that use the technology. But that's such a clever thing.
It is clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever used that?
Well, I've heard of it, and I think we have considered using it. But for us, if we let it ring before we get voicemail, then we can go, "Hey, you didn't answer your phone. I could have been a new customer." So
Right.
sometimes allowing it to ring
No, that's a
is
good
sort of like,
point.
"Hey."
Exactly. I love
Good
that. That's
point.
really clever. And also then you can make it very clear that this is an individual voicemail, that I didn't just record this once and blasting it out to thousands of people and hoping that they don't pick up, and using ringless voicemail to just bypass that possibility of them picking up. Very, very interesting. So you mentioned something called I think it was the Wow Station. Is
Yes,
that what it
the
was?
Wow Station.
What is that?
So the Wow Station is a collection of essentially wows that over the years are repeat instances by the receptionists. As I mentioned earlier, our receptionists are powered to do anything they want for any customer. Well, over the years, over and over again, we get, how come you're so cheery this all the time? Or, oh my gosh, I need another cup of coffee. And so receptionists sent enough of our Portland coffee and Ruby mugs that were like, okay, it's pre-stocked now. And lots of conversations about the weather. So in the winter, there's mugs with cocoa, and in the summer, there's coolers with lemonade, powdered lemonade that we might send about that. We know we're the receptionists. So we do know births, we know marriages, we know office moves, we know what's going on in your life. So many babies have been born over the years with all of our customers that we have our own baby onesie that's stocked in the Wow Station. And then for those individualized things, like one example was a customer had been in a car accident. And so their insurance company had called about the claim, and we were unable to put the call through. And so the receptionist put a nice little note in the message saying, sorry to hear about the accident, but then went ahead and bought a emergency roadside repair kit. And so a couple days later, our customer opens a package with, a note card that says, I'm sorry to hear you're in an accident. I hope this never happens again. I'm glad everyone's okay. And just in case, here's this roadside repair kit. And that kit came back to us, and we used the Wow Station to, brand it with Ruby wrapping paper and a Ruby note card. And so even though it's up to the receptionist's creativity to go think of whatever it is that might make that person understand that we're part of their team and we really do care about them and their business, that the Ruby is still, the little nod to the Ruby brand is part of it as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm curious, how did you come up with the name Ruby?
Ruby is a name that was popular in the 1940s and 50s. And actually, the original name was not Ruby. It was WorkSource Inc., which is a whole nother long story.
Oh, my goodness. Good
I
thing
know,
you didn't come up with that.
terrible.
Do you know what the name of Google was before it was Google?
No.
Backrub.
Backrub?
Backrub.
not-
Oh, thank goodness they didn't go with that name.
Oh, that's terrible. So we engaged a branding company, and they were like, right from the get-go, they were like, well, your business should be a woman's name because your business is about the personal connection. This was year one of business, and they knew that. They could tell right off the bat, me being female and all. I was like, yes, that makes total sense. And then it was a late night viewing of the movie Down with Love that made me go, that's it. Our brand to harken back to an era where personal service was the norm, but have a really fun, pop, modern feel to it, a nod to the technology and the times we live in. So that's Ruby.
That's cool. I love that
Yeah.
story. Is that on your website?
I don't know that it is.
I don't think it is. It needs to be.
Tip of the day from 7.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because good marketing is good storytelling, and you have so many great stories. And in fact, I talked to you about this before, about having a history kind of timeline for your about page instead of just a few paragraphs recapping what you guys do and your points of difference. If you walk people through that timeline, even before 2003, like how did you go from whatever you were doing before to starting this company and some of the big milestones? And people really resonate with that. They relate. And the expression, facts tell, stories sell.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think that is actually in the works too, because it's a great idea.
Yeah. In fact, I think that you guys are working with, so I got that full credit to Greg Merrilees for that idea. I think you're working with him for the site redesign. Yeah. So that's a really powerful kind of about page that I don't see really anywhere else. So the timeline sort of concept. Let's kind of wrap up here with one final question around content marketing and SEO and Google and all that. What's been the most impactful point of difference or strategy that you've gotten over the last whatever time period in regards to those areas, SEO, content marketing, and storytelling even?
Yeah. And it really is engaging with our audience even when they're not at the point of purchase, that sort of realization that maybe only 10% of customers are in that buying mode. And so over the last 6 to 12 months, our website has really changed from trying to get customers sign up and being sort of a brochure site to really thought leadership, valuable content, engaging with the audience. And that's something that you've really helped us understand too, is telling those stories, making it about them, giving value to them, and essentially warming them up over time.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'll sneak in one last really quick question because I'm dying to know, are you guys implementing NPS? So
we do. We have an insanely high NPS score. It's actually hovers right around 70. And we've actually changed platforms. We now use Ask Nicely. We used to use SurveyMonkey and we transitioned to Ask Nicely. It's got some really cool features, and even transitioning platforms, it's still above 70. So it's really high.
That's awesome. So NPS, for you listeners who aren't familiar with it, is Net Promoter Score. And it's a way to measure customer satisfaction and referability and identify the advocates. All right. Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights, and lessons learned as you grew this business from the very beginnings. And also for our listeners, again, if you want to share that URL again for folks.
The URL is callruby.com/marketingspeak.
Awesome. And on there is going to be the what if calculator for calculating your ROI on the first impression, the webinar replay on the ROI of personal connections, and the special offer code to get a special deal if you sign up.
That's right.
And
now
also
the service pyramid.
The service pyramid as well. That's fantastic. So thank you, Jill. Thank you, listeners. Now get out there and take some action. Get a better customer experience for your prospects and do it right away.
Yes.
All right.
Agreed.
See you, everybody.
Thank you again. Have a great day.